only use case that has had any adoption whatsoever in cryptocurrency is speculation, store value. That's it, period. Hex, now, for speculation, what's the only thing you care about? Price up, okay? Unless you're an option seller and you care about volatility and stuff, but that's such a tiny percentage, I'm not going to go into it. If you're a store value guy, what do you care about? Price up. Oh, okay. Well, what makes price go up? People buying more than they sell. Anything else? Nope. Hold on a second. Wait a second. You're telling me that the most important thing in crypto is the price goes up, and that the only way that the price goes up is if people buy more than they sell. Yep, that's what I'm telling you. Well, isn't it interesting that Hex was designed specifically to address exactly those two things? Yeah. Hex monetizes the only thing that actually matters, which is people buying and not selling. And it monetizes the time value of money the same way that they do it in the real world. It just blows my mind that we have CDs in the real world, but we don't have them on the blockchain. So I put them on the blockchain. And people are just like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. You can, if you lock up your money in the real world, your dollar account, and you lock it up an extra year, they give you 20% more interest every extra year. And then it tapers off and they give you less later. And that's what Hex does with shares. If you lock it up an extra year, you get 20% extra shares. And then it tapers off later, right? Like if it maxes out at 3641 days, which is like 10 years. And then why would you stake longer than that? So you wouldn't have to restake at a crappier share rate then. So you could maintain a higher share rate for longer to have more shares for longer to make a higher return for longer. So why is this hard for people to understand? It doesn't make any sense to me how like Bitcoin stores value, the number goes up, everyone's happy.
I'll tell you why it's hard to understand.
Ethereum stores value, the number goes up, everyone's happy. Hex stores value more securely than Bitcoin with audited software. Bitcoin's not audited. An economics audit. Bitcoin doesn't have an economics audit. Isolated consensus code so that it can't accidentally get screwed up in a network upgrade, which has happened to Bitcoin twice. And it's had inflation bugs twice, where anyone could print as many free Bitcoin as they wanted twice, and they had to roll back the chain once. Hex is more secure than Bitcoin. So if storing value securely and addressing the time value of money and reducing pollution by rewarding stakers instead of miners are good things, and fixing unit bias, and you can claim it for free if you're a Bitcoin holder, like it does so many things well. And it's,
What's up, guys? It's your boy GRC. I just wanted to have Richard have a moment of some clarity and some sense for the people. This had no direct correlation to anything involved, but I like to have Richard's words into the conversation first, because I quote Richard a lot, but I don't quote him on a lot of the things that people like all the time. I listen to him extremely closely. I've listened to every word this man said for 3 years straight. I know very critically how he feels and thinks when he's in different moods and when he's doing different things. And I wanted Sam to hear this and everyone else to hear this, because I think it'll be a good baseline for our conversation moving forward. We're going to talk about a couple of things today, guys. Everything that we're talking about, critically important. That's the way we do it on this show. When I have guests on, founders, things like this, I'm learning. Okay, guys, I need you to understand that I'm learning. When I have a founder on, that doesn't mean I fucking shook their hand and got money involved. I don't want to do any of this kind of things. I want to bring people on so I can learn about this tech, just like Richard was doing at this time, explaining things 2 years ago, Sam, that people still don't fucking get. 2 years ago, I watched this clip and I understood it. It made a lot of sense because he wasn't emotional. Everyone else is emotional because they invested all their money and they don't have money. This man has money coming out of every orifice in his body. He doesn't care. He wants to know what's going on. He wants to know the truth. He wants to make the best product that's ever existed. Is that the same for all the others that make products? I don't think so, personally, because this man is in a specific position and has an absolute autistic, magical, mathematical brain. It just is what it is. I'm a smart dude too. I don't think the way that he does though. So it helps me a lot because it adds to my, my thinking set. Anyway, the point is, Richard explains a lot of this stuff beautifully, but he does not negatively talk about his product, period, end of story, ever. He's never done it. He never will. And I don't think he should. So you understand, read between the lines. He talks to some of the smarter guys in between all his 10,000x meme Gucci suits. You know what I mean? He talks to you and he tells you about the market very intimately. What do people care about? Price go up. When a derivative of a B share comes out and price go up, everyone cries. Everyone cries because the rules were played out. And then a good founder with really good skills, with really good sight on all this stuff, who's been here since day one and way, way before, somebody who is clearly doesn't care about the money as much anymore, Alex, as far as I see it, comes out with a product that emulates these exact same feature functions. Yes, it's not time locking. It was an additional thing. But how many people are staking their Hex 555 and HSIs? I did a bunch. So anyway, I just want to cut through all the bullshit before we get into the main conversation. I want to talk about what's really going on in crypto, guys. I don't really care about how much money you have. I think staking is a tool and it should be used as a tool. And if the tool's used too much, you're going to fuck yourself, because time is the most valuable asset. So waiting 15 years, there's a premium there, even if you get mad gains, because you could be dead. We're actually alive. Gotta and if I stake something for 2 years, and I know that's when the bull market is, since we all listen to Richard Hart every day, he literally calls the fucking top on the day and drew the chart, and all you had to do is extrapolate that data to say there's no way that Hex can stay up when Bitcoin drops 85% when they're tied so tightly in liquidity, which is what Richard tells us every fucking day. So, and that was a little bit of a rant, but at the same time, I trust Richard's intellect. I trust him. I want to keep talking about this speculation. I'm speculating that Richard thinks at a different level with more experience than most of the guys in the space. And therefore, he's going to be detached. That's why I don't listen to him like he's talking to me, because he knows a lot different, more stuff than me. I just want to learn. I want to learn about all this stuff as I go, so I can try to have the most transparent, honest channel that I can come with. Guys, every single day, Crypto in the Morning. I'm really excited to talk to Sam today. We got a lot to talk about. We're talking about time locking your PulseX in your Pulse chain. And is there a share rate on that? I gotta look back at some of the stuff. We're gonna watch another clip too of Matty Allen's first 10 minutes of his PowerPoint, so Sam can get the overview as well. But I'm gonna get right into it, guys. Sorry if I took a little long. I'm gonna drop the link below, guys. Make sure you share this out right this second. It helps me out a lot when you hit the sub in the Twitter. You know all the stuff, guys. Please retweet that. Everyone, Crypto in the Morning. Really me.
You already know what time it is. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. 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 Waiting on phone. Crypto in the morning. Crypto in the morning. Smoking a blunt on my way to the gym. 11 a.m. and I'm already tuned in. Got me some Hex and I'm making a stake. Got me some heads on, I'm making it rain. Pay me some Maxi and that's just in case. Jim ready to send me to show you the way. Crypto in the morning. 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 Crypto in the morning.
What up, bro?
Yo, what's good, bro? How you doing? That was a nice intro there. The clip from Richard Hart is I think he does a better job of getting his point across when he's not trying to be boastful, and it appears like he's trying to connect or get a message across in a calm, collective manner. Like, that's a good clip that you pulled up there. this morning.
Yeah, no, I like to set the tone with him because everyone wants to tell everyone else what Richard Hart's thinking, but they don't want to listen to what Richard Hart actually says. They don't want to believe that he's completely and utterly 100% aware of the absolute debauchery and scammery in this industry. And that he knows specifically that everyone that talks loud and pretends like they know what they're doing are just talking loud. He knows that. That's why whenever I DM Richard, it's a question. It's just a question, I want to know the answers to these questions. I don't want to make a bunch of money on everyone. At some point that could be a part of the path at some point, but we're all at different points. So I just want to listen to people. I can just tell his incentive is not money at this point. You can just tell. And I think for most people, Sam, that's just not the case. What do you think?
I mean, I think
that and the leadership in general. I'm not talking about Richard Hart, but how important is that when you're talking about investing in a product? Let's say someone comes out with the best product in history, but 50% of the people that know them think that they've had nefarious acts in the past. So you could have the best product in history, but they're like, man, he sold Trenbolone to a bunch of 9-year-olds or whatever, and that would be the more fitness industry kind of way to say it. And now I'm kind of like, that dude really doesn't care about you, but I don't want to say it out loud. And we're not talking about anyone in particular. This is a whole crypto concept. What do you think about that?
And real life concept. This happens in the daily, in whatever real life thing you're doing, people will we were kind of having this conversation this morning on the phone. We can talk about that after we get into this. I think that Richard definitely wants money. Personally, I think that he definitely wants money because money allows you to create.
But if you're smart enough and you just do it the right way.
But I also see that there's it appears like I don't have the same context that you do on what he publishes and puts out and everything, but he does come across as very authentic and real in the sense that he is not trying to just be a salesperson, right? Yes, but also really the best possible thing. And it's not necessarily the best thing for everybody.
He's just like you. He's just like you and me. If you were being honest, he's just really got this crypto thing down to a fucking science, man. Everyone has skills, dude. Do you think most people in this world walk around with the six-pack 24/7, 365? No. I do. I wasn't born that way either. Richard wasn't born with $1 billion. Sam would only go to sleep happy if he made something that people were impressed and it was useful.
What's the point if you're not doing that?
But that doesn't mean if I wasn't talking to someone, I'd be like, yeah, Sam wants a fuck ton of money for sure.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. But you have to do it the right way. Yeah.
But there's certain what's that piece, Sam? What's that piece? I want to know what that piece is.
So let's think about that for a second. That's a good point, because I think there's a lot of people that we see on the opposite side. So we can see both sides of this, right? We get to see that there's people who will do things just because you can clearly see it's 1,000% selfish, right? But I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily being selfish. I think that the idea of doing it in a selfish way, as in not doing what's best for the person in front of you. And I think that is the difference, right?
He knows he'll be 100 billionaire if he does this over a 10-year period and his name doesn't get slandered.
Correct. But it has to come down to, because I do think more people should be selfish. It's selfish in the sense that they should not care what other people think about what they do in their life, right? There's so many people who will buy a car or buy this thing or that thing because they give a shit what somebody else actually thinks about them that they don't even like. It's the silliest concept in the fucking world. And yet there's people out there that want lots and lots of money, but they're willing to tell GRC or anybody to do something that is not necessarily in the best interest of GRC. And I think that little nuance there is where you kind of start crossing over. And the deeper you cross over is by truly getting a better perspective on GRC, right? Where I can't just say it's left or right until I understand how you think or anybody thinks, to tell them what I might do if I was in their situation. And the further you sit back from that, and you understand the person, the further you can go on the far side of like doing the right thing all the time versus just trying to sell people shit without actually giving a shit if it's the best thing for that individual. Like I actually care
It's
about
just
the people.
lazy. It's lazy. People don't understand how easy you can do things if you have confidence in yourself for real. Like Richard, like I could build a cryptocurrency, no problem. If I felt like I had the time and resources and energy and mind to do it. I don't want to do it yet because it would probably be way worse than what I'll do in a year or two. And Richard will probably say the same thing. You know, Alex from Hedron made something that, you know, there was features on there. There was stuff that other people could build. There was stuff that had amazing ideas. And again, I want to tell people the truth about staking. Oh, I think that's what it is. I think that's
Did you want to, I know we talked about this, and feel free to just go to the staking piece if you prefer to do that, but did you want to do a little recap on yesterday at all? Or
yeah, so let's do the recap. I don't want to get into staking because it could probably come out, since this is about time locking Pulse Chain and Pulse X, we can probably wrap it at the end. Again, I did send Maddie an invite at some point. So Maddie, if you're watching this by any chance, you can come on. This is all new stuff too.
We can get into his video and
yeah, no, it's I'm gonna play his first like through this PowerPoint, highlight some of the things that he says, and then let's think about how he's doing this all together.
But before we get into that, do you want to do the recap from yesterday slightly, or no?
Which one?
Yesterday in the mining NFT stuff.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, okay. I do. So, guys, I'm still learning about Get Fit mining for real. Like, I actually do like to learn stuff before I get all the way in, and it's impossible to learn things in 24 hours when you have 100 things going on. I like the ethos of Get Fit mining. I do not understand the specific value proposition percentages yet at all. I really don't. I mean, I can look into it, obviously, but there's so many guys messaging me about my affiliate link, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to shill anyone my affiliate link. I don't know shit. I don't know shit. And I think stuff like this is going to pop. These things are going to pop. I think this could be fucking legit. Ryan's a hell of a fucking worker. That girl knows a lot about crypto. They have the whole everything. I'm excited about it, but I've been studying Hex for a long time. It took me a long time to tell people to be able to buy Hex. You know what I mean? Forever. I had to convince myself to buy it first. And this is something now that I have money on the internet, I guess you could say, like I can throw $100 at something, $200 at something, but I want to talk to that team more. And I want to learn more about all of that and what people in the audience think specifically, like the smart guys in the audience think about these things. I'm not afraid to learn about this stuff. That's my brand though. Like, some people's brand is different and it's fair. Like if I had 3 kids running around, dude, my brand would be so fucking different, bro. I'm telling you. It just would. And that's why I didn't want to put myself in that situation at this age, because I was worried about that. And I knew that I was going to punch at something. But anyway, my ethos is I want to educate people. I want to educate people about liquidity, about reality. That's it. Reality is these are tight liquidity markets that grow and become slower. And when the gains go away, what did Richard Hart say at the first thing of his thing? When the gains go away, that's why the staking feature is so powerful, because that T-share rate, because you actually know how much, I know how much Hex I'll be earning in 15 years, like in the latter of those 15 years. That will be a lot of Hex then, for sure. But to say that I need to stake every US dollar and work 24/7 when Richard says, oh, the gains are so retarded that if you just cash out at the top, you're literally straight for life. And he says that all the time. This is a mechanism it's a good tool. It's just a fucking great tool and it works. People won't give this enough credit for working. Like this works and you don't know middlemen. That's great. Guys like Jack Levin, they said they don't like the staking feature because guess what? Jack's seen these markets every day for 30 fucking years. You think the 95% drop's going to scare him? No. Richard says, don't be scared by the 95% drop. And then once people understand that, they won't be scared, but nobody wants to teach anyone anything. They just want to tell them to do what's in the best interest of the product, which is fine because that'll probably benefit everyone at the end of the day. But I just want to be clear that there's guys in my chat that are really learning and really want to know about tight liquidity and really want to know what happens when you stake you have liquidity providing in different pools. They really want to know why certain cryptos go up and down. They don't want to just say people, stake it and then it'll all be better.
And I wanted to touch on this too.
Sorry about switching that subject too. And sorry if I offended anyone from the Get Fit Mining team. I'm just learning.
No, yeah, you just can continue on that path. Like we're all on the journey of learning here. When it comes to staking, I've been bringing up some LP stuff and like why even stake, right? I can earn double the returns by not staking. But I was having a conversation with my buddy, and he mentioned that the stuff I'm talking about is fascinating and all that, and reminded me that I'm in a different spot mentally of where I am in the rabbit hole on this. And I just wanted to highlight this.
You're in the hot lava core of the earth.
And everyone else remember that.
You never remember that with anything. You're always like, bro. And I'm like, dude, everyone's retarded. And then you're like,
so I want to highlight this.
You're like, these LP games are not real life. I'm like, yeah, people really don't do this. You're like, they're not real life. This is fake. I'm going to get rugged. I'm like, nope, people really don't do this. It took you a while to figure out people really don't LP in large quantity. I mean, a large volume of people.
Because you're earning 100% annually, right? Versus 40% in Hex. And I'm not saying that it's a bad
it's a different use case.
But I am saying that there's definitely utility in the staking piece of it. And so if you think of this as like a spectrum, right? Where the most restrictive, right, is going to be Hex, go to Hex, right? So if you go through go to Hex, your shit's fucking locked, right? Like you can't touch that even if you wanted to. And it's
watch the price go to $2 and see how many people touch it.
and that's
just the truth, guys. With high price appreciation, people want that premium value. They're going to take their stakes out if it gets to a high enough point. Again, you can always do the math and say, yes, I'd have more coins at this point. But at some point, you're alive and you're a human. And I want to buy a studio so I can make more people buy Hex probably. So, sometimes it takes money to make money too. Like, yeah, I need liquid capital. I like to have liquid capital. My Hedron bags are the only reason my shoulders are so chill this morning. You trust me that my Hedron bags are making my life way fucking better. And I still have all those fucking Hex stakes, printing out 10x Hedron, printing out ICOSA on both of my Watsa NFTs, printing out Hedron and ICOSA on my Hedron stakes.
Well, so that's where you move along that spectrum, right? You go .hex, right, and your shit is locked. There's nothing you can do without penalizing yourself.
It's retirement.
But then you move up to the HSIs, right? And that gives you more flexibility to get out of those positions. You can still make it more challenging for yourself by putting on a separate wallet and moving it out of like your immediacy of like where you normally do anything in crypto. And then you can come up into, say, like whether that's liquidity providing or things along those lines, where liquidity providing, you have access to your capital immediately. And like, I mean, in liquidity providing,
it's just a different use case. That's your daily income. That's your monthly income. That's a portion of your monthly income. And Hex is a portion of your future income.
And that's
thinking. Why don't people? I think Richard, when he came out with this, had a feeling people would not stake as long as they are. Why? Because I think it brought on a life of its own, and then the people within the ecosystem were kind of making. And I'm not saying that. I think staking 50% of your Hex bag is just a smashing idea. Absolutely smashing. You're just earning yield for your future. But what are we going to do in the meantime, guys?
And for a lot of people who are not like, they maybe have a job type of thing, or they're not as deep into it, or not like paying attention to it, don't fully understand it. Like, it's probably a good idea to start planning for your future by doing something like that, or getting into with the LP and then using the profit to build a Hex stake or something along those lines, or whatever the case is. That's not necessarily a bad idea. I just wanted to make that clear because I enjoy LP. I enjoy making 20% a month on my, like, you put in for LP and you can make 20% a month, right? or you're making 38% a year and you have to wait 7+ years to get your money out, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I just like the idea that I can pull this and build a bag much faster through using LP, because this opportunity in crypto in general, but specifically I'm talking about with LP here, is not going to last forever. We're already in like the transition of an S curve in crypto. Like we're at the point right around here as we skyrocket, right, in terms of adoption and users, and that increases demand. And what does that do? That drives up the price. So there's a massive, massive opportunity, in my opinion, on that. And then you can layer in pieces like Icosa, which is going to be tied. I think it's going to be tied relatively close to Hex. And then you have Hedron, which is
you really do think
undervalued piece.
Icosa will tie close to Hex as far as the price performance? I'm just curious.
Similar. The floor is not very strong on it, but in my opinion. The floor underneath Icosa is not super strong. I think that what could help reinforce the price floor underneath Icosa, all you have right now is the ability to stake it, right? And there, in whether it's coming out in the next 10 days or in the next year, right? People's stakes in Icosa are going to be coming out, right? And people are going to sell some of that stuff. Period. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Like there's going to be a percentage of that is sold. Now, how is that going to stay up? I think there's something that can help make that a little bit more sticky is the drastic appreciation of Hedron. I think that the Hedron, like we've talked about this many times, but I think that Hedron is undervalued relative to where it's going to be.
So many people off. People are going to get so pissed off, but it's going to hold the floor of Hex up, so it's going to be good either way.
And it's going to help Hex in multiple different ways. I don't know how you had mentioned somebody who said something like Hedron doesn't help Hex, but it's so silly too.
They don't like that the USD. They don't like that the liquid USD and the liquid Hex and the liquid ETH and the liquid Bitcoin is going into Hedron rather than Hex. But Richard tells us, because I pay attention, guys. Richard tells us that we're no bull market until Grayscale Premium go away. He said that yesterday. So he said once that Grayscale Premium goes away, you get ready for the bull market. And Hex is clearly tied down with fucking the trading of the other assets right now. Enough people know about it. It gets heavier over time, guys. More people figure this stuff out. People aren't dumb.
Plus, the people from the beginning are just going to perpetually be dumping on everybody else's heads for years and 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 years into the future, because they've got multiple more zeros in their bag than you do or I do. So they're just going to continue to dump on us for years into the future, and that's normal. There's not necessarily anything bad or how you can fix that, right? But a lot of those same people already dumped a bunch of Hedron, right? So they can't get back into that position. And when you look at like how Hedron actually benefits Hex, you have the capacity of people to stake with the HSI, right? So you can take your Hex, put it into an HSI, and you can stake it, right? And there are people who are apprehensive about locking up any sort of large sum of money for a long period of time that is in code so that they cannot pull that out before 50% of the time has been served in the time.
Well, they
contract.
can, but it digs into premium.
Well, isn't it? But if you have 180
at 50, all your at 50%, all of your accumulated Hex gone. But you get your principal back, and then everything lower than that, you actually lose what you initially put in.
Yeah, in the first quarter, first 90 days, don't you lose all of it?
You don't lose all of it, but you might as well wish you did.
Okay. So
yeah, it's close. It's close.
Very, very close.
Even if you end a 555, I still think like, I don't know. I think you might just lose if you end it the day of, like just lose it all plus the fee. And I think the next day you would like probably break the fee, and et cetera, if it was a big stake. And I did want to highlight one thing that Crypto Gains Club said, and it's so true. Not that one, but everyone is in a different position, guys. But I feel like the Hexicans want to act like everyone's in the position that they're in. And I don't think that's true. I think the new user is going to have a different mindset. And I think Hedron's going to be more accepted by the new user if everyone understood everything. And the smart guys would also stake their hex. Like there's just like multiple ways to do this. Do you want that T-share rate? I do. I'd love to have T-shares, 10 T-shares at that rate from, last month. I do. That makes me feel really happy about my future. But I don't need to, when do I get to stop? When does these mad gains get to actually mean something? How much money does GRC need to make stuff happen in his life? I would like to pay money for people so I can have help working. That's what I want. I want a studio and motherfuckers to work for me so I can be awesomer. And Sam, any thoughts on that before I pull up the first side of time locking for Pulse Chain and PulseX SmartVault.me?
Yeah, very quickly on the Hedron piece of things and how it actually benefits hex. And the first is like being able to liquidate a hex position, right? So clearly it's helpful there. On another side, you have that there's people, I know somebody who, and this is just one person that I know. I know that there's plenty of other people who are in the same situation, and it's going to continue to grow, who own Hedron or Icosa, and they don't own hex. So that this pool of people who the front door into the ecosystem, we'll call it this triad, right? These three pools of crypto. The front door was Icosa, or the front door was Hedron. And once they're in that ecosystem, then they have the opportunity to learn about hex. It wasn't hex that brought them in the door. So there you have another point, right? It helps the people in the ecosystem because they can use their HSI to stake hex, right? So it's helping hex out there because there's people who won't use hex because it locks your shit up and there's no way to get out. 2, it brings new people into the ecosystem. 3, when you take a look at the hex stake, GRC just mentioned it a second ago. What do you get? You get free fucking Hedron. So what happens when Hedron has a 10, a 20, a 30x, a 50, 150x, 250x, and it's following some trajectory that is similar to the price of hex? Well, that benefits anybody who stakes because you're getting free Hedron.
Yeah, but they don't they don't like that they bought more. They don't like that they didn't buy a big chunk because they're so used to having such a big portion of the bag that when they see guys like you and they see guys like Sloth buying, dolphin squid positions and they don't have those, that's going to cause those negative emotions. And that's all this is. I mean, he let the richest people of the group get the most coins and they failed to see what they were doing. But that's okay. Like, they can still buy back. This is like an infancy product. Like this just started. So
6 months to 7 months.
And if you listen to Richard closely, it's like, bro, low liquidity assets, product market fit, great community, great founder. That is what you need in crypto. And they check all the boxes, except a lot of the people that know about Icosa and Hedron already know a lot of these things. So they're going to be easier to move from Hex and ETH to Hedron, USD to Hedron, than they will be to move from when they had no Hex to Hex. It's an easier move, in my opinion, than it was to Hex because the controversy on Hex initially was fire roasted.
Well, I would love to know what you think, but also in the chat here, we're going to play conjecture, right? So this is a fun game. I think that people like Alex are builders. They enjoy the process of building things and trying to make them better. I like making things better. Bullish likes making things better. You enjoy making things better. I don't see Alex stopping here. I personally believe that Alex is going to launch something else, whether it's this year or next year. I do not see Alex sitting on his fucking thumb up his butt. Like, I think that he is going to try and work on making the ecosystem even better. Just like Matty Allen has this idea of what he can do to bring to the ecosystem, whether we agree with it or don't agree with it. He is also trying to go through and do something. But with Alex, do you think that he is going to come out with a new project? And would you
Alex
care
couldn't
to
stop himself if everyone was putting a gun to his head? There's just guys like that. You meet them. They're like us. Like if someone came in here with a gun to my head and was like, "No more streaming," I would just be like, "Well, not. I guess that's my life." Like I wouldn't be like, "Oh my god, I just want to make sure." I'd just be like, "Nope, this is what I'm doing. This is my purpose and my passion at this moment in time, and I can't stop myself." And you meet guys like that along the way. We call it mental illness in the psychology room. But in general, a lot of these guys figure out moral integrity. A lot of these guys figure out they're very smart and they're crazy people. Some of them have really good families that taught them about morals, values. They had brothers and sisters that cared for them and loved them. I'm not saying everyone has sticking points, but sometimes people are rather morally sound because they understand that value proposition of going to bed at night and feeling free. But some people never realize that. They never know what it's like to have what they actually want in life. They never know what it's like to feel like a man. So they never act like a man. And that just extrapolates. And it doesn't stop with the scam that you make $1 billion on. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't. It's a forever thing. Like once you get to a certain age and you have certain moral values and you stand for something and it's working and people are vibing with you, you don't switch up because everything else is just negative externality. A lot of the guys that come out with products in this community have horrible reputations that I would be very upset if I had. Extremely upset. That is not on me. That is because you got your hands in too many cookie jars and you want money too fast. So we got to understand, like, reputation is king when it comes to crypto, in my opinion.
That's what, and then the last point on this here before we get into Matty Allen's video here, which is going to be interesting, guys. And then we'll give some feedback on that. I was thinking about that relative to LP. I'm like, damn, I think last month I did well over 20% in a month in fees, right? So like multiple
shit themselves for that.
Multiple tens of thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, but multiple tens of thousands of dollars in a single month, right? So, and you're like, wait a second, I should start to pull portion of this and just build a separate bag completely. So that is what I'm currently doing. I'm building a Hedron bag, like a big Hedron bag, by just pulling some profits every day and buying Hedron. But I was thinking about that and putting that money into the staking as a separate part of the portfolio for myself. But this morning, GRC calls me and he's like, hey, did you see that another project is launching by Matty Allen? And he did a video on it. So we're actually going to dive into this video and listen to some of what he has to say about this. You want to give
if you want me to pause it, if you want me to pause it at any point, go ahead. I'm probably we might rerun the first section depending how juicy it is, but let's just play it for a couple minutes.
So what I'll be offering in the future is a tool so that people can time lock their Pulse Chain and their Pulse X tokens. And we're calling this SmartVault.me. And it's a collaboration between myself and Future Us. So just like Hex, the game theory was announced before the final code was available. I wanted to announce the game theory for this because there's so many exciting pieces to it that I think the community can pick apart. So how does time locking help? We already know with Hex, it allows the price to go up more due to scarcity in the here and now. It allows people to stop trading and start saving again. It allows you to protect yourself from your own future self that could start thinking more short term. We know that the majority of the APY comes from time locking and that humans build a better future due to aligned incentives. So without like having any expectations, I mean, obviously the expectation is there's not going to be a coin associated with this and there's not going to be a sacrifice. But even beyond that, we don't want people to harass us about when is it going to.
I think 10 or 20 seconds ago, I think he said that the APY comes from time locking. And if you listen to Richard Hart, that's not what Richard Hart said.
I think he said, like, I think what he means to say is that a lot of people didn't sell because they were time locked. Therefore, that USD value is still alive.
Okay.
But yes, Richard Hart says over and over again, and I hate to highlight this, but it's just the truth. The majority of the price appreciation from Hex comes from USD value appreciation. The majority. Basically what this whole staking thing is just keeping you from selling. But let's say in a perfect world, you were educated and everyone in the world understood these concepts, which is what mass adoption is, guys. These are not confusing concepts. People just don't know about them. That's where I come in. That's why I'm punching so hard, because I'm not here to just, if this all works out, I'm going to be rich as shit. So You know,
By
like
all works out means crypto. Like if crypto
like
works
if
out,
this
but
if this
there's-
stuff doesn't just get nuked because of whatever laws they make and all that shit, which at this point Ethereum's pretty damn secure and pretty damn in the system. So I'm hoping that that just can't occur at this point, and it doesn't look like it will. But at what I'm saying is basically the majority of the actual USD value comes from people just holding the token, because most of those gains aren't realized yet. Maybe like, I don't know overall if that could change at some point, but in general, there are a lot of smart investors. That this time locking is more so in general for people that want to protect themselves from emotional turmoil. But if you're in a position where you don't have emotional turmoil, like myself, I have no emotional turmoil in my life. I can do literally whatever the fuck I want, and I had nobody paying me for shit. So that's what that means to me. But Richard also teaches me that 85% dips are a part of the game. He teaches me about locked liquidity. He teaches me about grayscale Bitcoin. He teaches me about all those things. So that has really tempered my up and down. But remember, when you time lock, you get a T-share rate and yield. So let's see if they get a T-share rate and yield from this. Not a T-share, but whatever share rate they do. This is interesting stuff, though, for sure. There is a hacker portion to this, Sam, too. So keep your eyes out for that.
Going to be done and all that kind of stuff. The code is in production, but that doesn't mean that it's ready to test yet. Although that's the exciting part, is that the game theory is ready to be scrutinized today. So this is a smart contract. It's not a wallet. You keep your keys. You get the choice.
Whoops. It'll come back.
I'm sorry about that, guys.
Then refresh and say, I'll touch on a couple of these
Choice
comments
to lock
real
for
quick.
years with or without a weekly drip. There are also important permissions that we discovered could be enabled so that people can recover in some cases if a hacker gets their hot wallet keys. If you wanted an inheritance to take effect. If
you want to go back like
wanted,
25, 30 seconds,
gift
like
or
just by
onboard.
pressing the arrow back.
Sorry about that, guys. That usually doesn't happen. That must be my
Some
grade of computer.
Or internet. I have the same issues. For anybody who doesn't know
discovered
this, well,
could
this
be
is-
enabled so
That's how I
that
get it.
people can recover in some cases if a hacker gets their hot wallet keys. If you wanted an inheritance to take effect. If you wanted to gift or onboard somebody. If you wanted to do a social recovery switch if it's dormant. Now, the cost, what's the catch? Well, it's not that bad. There's a 1% fee that you choose whether you give it to us or whether you pay it to your future self. But in order to qualify to pay it to your future self and not us, you have to do a waiting game. And the waiting game is meant to like simulate Hex so that you can get experience. Maybe you're not into Hex yet, or maybe you want to prove that you already know how to delay gratification. So you might have to wait for like 5 minutes, show up 5 minutes later. And then every minute that you wait, the amount of time served is going towards the 0% fee that you would get if you wait for exactly 5 minutes. And so we felt like that was a fair way to like align incentives and to give people a practice, like paying themselves to wait longer and that sort of thing. The amount of X that can be done is really incredible. And especially because in this ecosystem, we think that the founder maybe won't dump on our heads. And that is a negative. It's lacking a negative externality that every other coin seems to have a problem with. Vitalik dumps, the creators of Uniswap and all these other tokens seem to have dumped on their followers, and in Hex that is not the case. So there are really incredible gains that are possible, but that comes with its own risk. I know Greg Schoen follows me on Twitter. He's the famous dude who back in 2011 thought he had missed the boat on Bitcoin because he had, he had sold his 1,700 Bitcoin at 30 cents and realized that they were at $8 and never bought back in. Like I talked to him about it and he is still working a regular job, even though those Bitcoin, even with this 60% dip, would be worth more than $1 billion today. He, he didn't time lock it. So,
again, Maddie wants to relieve everyone of conscious thought, because once you understand this concept, it's the concept here that to me is the most important. If you understand why Bitcoin went from 6 pennies to $8 or whatever he had it, and if you look at the chart and if you extrapolate all the data that's given for free by Richard, a couple hours a week, then you could really decide for yourself. So this isn't about holding time lock. The reason you time lock is for yield. You understand, people? Yield. Why do I time lock? For yield. What happens when you time lock? You get yield. That's how the system inflates. So really,
is he saying is he saying you're going to get yield in this thing?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I would assume you would have to, or nobody would do it.
I haven't heard him talk about that yet, though. That's a good point. Because he
has finesse with the $50 super chat. You're the absolute goat. God freaking drives around this damn world and saves people all day long, sends people money, hex streamers all day long. Absolute nothing but good vibes from this guy all day long. Mary is golden with me. Maddie is golden with me, because when audio went down on the early stream, I was being myself right into Maddie's ear, and he took it with a smile. Yes, gangster. Yes, the one thing Maddie does is he wants people to talk. He doesn't care if people talk shit about him, which is true, because people talk shit about him all the time. So basically,
I think that's because of
basically it's good though. Like, he brought us all on the panel yesterday to pick him apart about this. Like, he wasn't asking us to support him.
You were on the panel?
Asking us to have critical detail. Most people just went along with it, but you don't want to be like, most people aren't very aggressive on camera, so it's like you're kind of setting them up to be fluffy to you. But
correct.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like a little fluff set, but that's all right. That's life. I love how honest and blunt GRC is with all these projects. Keep it up, brother. I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate that comment, because it's exactly what I try to do. I do not get brainwashed by narratives very easily, unless they're super lit and super real. The narratives that Richard puts out there are super lit and super real to me, but Richard doesn't explain hex to everyone. The people online do. So understand that Richard thinks differently about these things, but it doesn't mean he doesn't agree. That I don't think Richard thought of this as any sort of mental health thing when it started. I think that came about because of just the way it went. You know what I mean? No yield with SmartVault, only gains for holding. Yeah.
I'm not sure how well that's gonna. I don't know.
I don't stake. I only stake because I get yield in the T-share rate that always goes up, and I like that. I can get in on that T-share rate and always get that yield. It's like a front run play.
It's like, why don't you come into this room, handcuff yourself, and then we'll box, right? It's like not an intelligent move. I don't know. I haven't watched the rest of this video.
It's intelligent if you're mentally disabled,
but you have to pay a fee, right? You have
1% without the fee.
Without the fee, then just put it onto a different wallet and put it into a fucking safe, and don't touch that shit separately.
Yeah, I'm all about education. I want people to understand security and the blockchain, not just vow their lives to me. And I'm not saying people couldn't use this. Like, my mom would probably have a dandy with this, but I don't think I would tell her to do it, because the only reason I tell people to stake their hex is because you get redonky yield.
But think about that for a second. Are you going to ever put your money into a CD?
Fuck no.
Yeah. Right. Because it's reducing your flexibility of what you can do with your capital. Well, that's effectively what it's doing, right? It's locking up your capital, and there's a penalty potentially to pay to get into it, but then also to get out of it. I'm assuming he's going to get into this. There's a penalty to get out of this. I don't know. I'm not sure there's
basically
good audience.
Just like if you're a toddler or a middle schooler or elementary schooler, and you have or somebody who does not care to learn about any of this shit at all, No one held liquid hex for 10,000x the whole way.
I agree.
Yeah, no shit. There were what of all like the 40 people that bought on day 4 and then
Well, it's also
sold on day
it's also cherry picking, Piper, right?
yeah, it's like
you
that'll
said
not
that, but it's just
like
cherry
you,
picking.
you realize hex is too heavy to do a 10,000x again. Like people know about it now. Like I'm not saying that he can't do a 10,000x overall, but it did a 10,000x in 6 months. And you know how many people earn from that and how many people will never get a piece of anything even remotely close to that? Like it's just yes, you were there. Yes, on day 4. Day 4. Nobody knew about this shit on day 4. Is this about mass adoption or is this about making sure that this thing still goes up? Richard Hart says the only reason people buy shit is because price go up. And things slow down. That's why we have these giant retracements because there was so much capital. There was so much capital formed in that moment that everyone and their mother knew there had to be. Even Richard, Bitcoin does it, Ethereum does it. The staking feature definitely helps with the price appreciation because there's a lot of hex stake and you earn massive yield. Hedron USDC LP is mooning.
Hedron USDC LP pair is a you can earn a lot of yield, but you just have to reset it perpetually because it moves out of your position quite frequently because you're pegging a volatile asset to a non-volatile asset, so it goes outside of a range if you're using liquidity on V3 and you put it in a range and you don't do it over the whole time. You use a concentrated position. You just have to reset it frequently. And if there's a big bag, if you're not even a big bag, if you're using say like 10 grand, right, which is a decent size, right? But if you're using $10,000 for LP with Hedron USDC and you're all in USDC, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing because you can still earn, the returns when I was testing this out were like far higher than 20%. I'm doing 20% in a different pair. Like you can earn higher than 20% on a monthly basis on that, like no problem. But every time you switch back into Hedron, there is slippage because even though it's only $10,000 is a decent amount, but $10,000 causes slippage just because there's no fucking liquidity in Hedron. So that was when I was like, let me think of a different way I could do this. Maybe an LP pair with like Maxi and Hedron, right? Because then you're like, okay, I can get my Maxi and or Hedron or maybe Hex Hedron, right? Because that way you're into two other things that you like, maybe more so than USDC there. But let's get back into the Matty Allen video here and see what else he has to say. I'm curious to see who's going to buy this shit or who's going to put their money in here.
And hold on to the mad gains. So I'm inviting everybody to come help build this community with me. I need your feedback and participation in planning your own future. SmartVault.me is the way that you could be able to stake your Pulse chain and your Pulse X tokens. The Telegram is up and running. That's the #1 spot to catch us, and it's SmartVault.me. The Twitter is the same, SmartVault.me. VAULTME. And we're looking for volunteers to admin, answer questions, contribute game theory, make graphics, etc., etc. I also have a version 1 survey to help us understand the plan that you're going to make around time locking your Pulse chain and Pulse X tokens. And you can find that survey at smartvault.club. And it's just 5 questions and they're really simple. So my final comment is that the code causing the most people to win is what game theory and crypto should really mean. And so that's what I'm trying to do here.
Oh, he had a bunch of people on there.
Yeah, he was on for 3 hours last night. This was a really popular stream last night. If anyone wants to watch the whole stream, I'll drop it. Give me 1 sec. But we got a couple minutes left here. And the one problem I do have that Bullish brings up a lot is that people really like to assume what RH is doing and tell people and use that as an authority. Notice that I only quote RH. I don't really mention what I think he's going to be doing with the shit because I have not a clue. And I would assume that he doesn't go around telling random Mexicans what goes on in the deep underworld. because we all know that it's not pretty. And what I'm saying is, for RH in general, like, I don't think RH would come out with this. I don't think RH would produce this product. And if he did, it would probably work better because people trust him. But again, like, I'm no shade to Maddie at all, dude. This dude punches real hard. He goes hard as fuck. He's a smart dude.
He's trying to help the community.
Exactly. But I think he's missing that there's no morals in this game. People pretend there are, but there aren't. Everyone pretends like they love Hex because of morality, but they want to not work anymore. Everyone says that they want Hex people to stake their Hex for whatever reason, but the truth is, it's just to earn yield on a product that's going to moon no matter what. And what does Richard tell us? When the BTC grayscale premium gets closer to 1-to-1, that is when the bull market will start. There is going to be no buy pressure from legacy finance on Bitcoin. And until that, we will not trigger a bull market. So stuff like Hedron that triggers a lot of separate attention because it's not bound by anything yet, because there's no liquidity, that's going to pull up Hex, just so you guys know. Like, that's going to pull up Hex because more capital is going there than the Hex when Richard's telling everyone grayscale premium needs to be closer to 1 for any of this shit to moon. And it's the third highest trading volume on Uniswap. So I don't need to hear about, like, you know what I mean?
I wonder, the grayscale thing is interesting because it reminds me of AMC, right, in GameStop, where it wasn't institutional money, right? It wasn't Wall Street dollars. It was that you, me, and 1,000 other people or 10,000 other people all had, something between $0 and $10,000, $0 and $50,000. And we decided, because in reality, the collective of all of us is far more powerful. And grayscale and BTC price, I agree with that. I do. I see the logic there. I don't necessarily agree with it. I see the logic there. And it makes me think that there's an opportunity there where more people, because we are telling people, you're telling people in real life, I'm telling people in real life, there's 127 people who are watching right now. And there is at least several of those people who are also telling people, and that's in this community. And it's multiplied times all the other shows. And then it's times all the other communities in crypto who are doing the same thing. The ferocity at which crypto is adding users is silly. Even if it's $50 a week or $50 a month, I pay somebody in Africa and he's like, don't send me PayPal, send it in crypto now. Right. And I've been doing this for 6 months for him with PayPal. And he's like, don't do it that way. Let's do crypto. I was like, cool, bro. Fucking awesome. Right. But there is so many people pouring in there at some point, right? The individuals as a collective, you, me, us, even though we have a small amount.
That's what it is.
Capital.
It's talking.
Yes, we could offset this. We could potentially be like, and leave a lot of the legacy behind.
Well, that's exactly what Hex is trying to do. Like trying to get enough force with enough punching power, with enough locked money, with enough limited supply, where enough people have enough money, where we can start to make real changes in this world. But again, there's always bad actors, right? And bad actors often don't even know they're bad actors because they don't really know what it's like to have everything they want in this world. And until you understand that, it's weird. It's a weird thing. You don't always want the same thing, but when you really dig in and accomplish something in real life that you never thought you could do before, over and over and over again, you get a lot of confidence. And then, but you can't do that until you do it, right? Like, I'm not done that yet. That's why I'm not, I've had big wins, but not like, you know what I mean? It's hard.
Yep. One more thing. I'd like to hear what people's thoughts are, and then we're wrapping things up here. With the delay in Pulse and PulseX, I think that there is because of the I don't have as much context on RH as a lot of people who are in the chat and yourself, and they could correct me, but I personally believe if I am the person who is doing like Pulse or Pulse X and I'm releasing it and I know that I can make it better and add more pizzazz, right? Because the merge is out, right? That's stealing attention, mind share, and that is power, that is money, the mind share. I think that Pulse X and maybe not Pulse as much, but I do think Pulse X is going to have some potentially new features that have not been talked about because of the additional time, right? The first thing that comes to mind is something like limit orders and ranges, right? Because it's a fork of Uniswap V2. V2 does not have LP positions where you can do a concentrated position. So they can't use the license for V3 until May of 2023 is when the license for V3 comes up for them to use. But they could develop their own version of concentrated liquidity, and they could add limit orders and or other things that are features to Pulse X to make it even better. Now, there's the possibility to do that with Pulse. I don't know enough about Pulse, like you're going to make it, better necessarily, but I'm sure that there's 1,000 things that could make it better there, but it's just not necessarily going to be the same things that are going to touch humans, right? Certain things like limit orders, humans are going to touch, right? Where stuff on the back end on Pulse could make it substantially better, and I bet those are happening, right? I bet they are happening now that there's a delay, like, hey, just make it the best you can possibly make it, right? I do think that is happening, but I think there's going to be some new features that were not originally thought of that are going to be out in both of Pulse and Pulse X when it does launch. And those returns that Matty Allen had up, if we don't have the video up anymore, but in 1 year, Solana, or I think it was ADA or a couple other ones, in less than a year, it was like 100 something days or this number of days, had a over 100x return. That's pretty substantial. You put in $1,000, add a couple more zeros on there, right? And imagine putting in $1,000 a month, right? You can really, really start to impact your life from a financial perspective in a different way.
And people don't understand that most of the gains come in a short time. So just because you can't predict, but what I always talk about, the grayscale premium and stuff, it's not necessarily about that in particular. It's about when this thing starts moving, it's going to start moving. And we all know it. We all know it. If you were in the last cycle, you know it at least. If you're new, you don't know it. But if you were in the last cycle, you know it. I watched Hex go from 2 pennies to 56 pennies in 4 months. If I sold the top on that shit, I would be driving whatever the fuck I wanted, doing whatever the fuck I wanted, and having 10 times more Hex than I ever would have now, because I would bought back the bottom. So now that I understand that it goes down 95% in a bear market, which takes lots of time to learn properly, now it's just a different game. And now I'm so happy that I do have those Hex positions, and I don't feel like I have to create so many more Hex stakes. Obviously, now is a very good time to buy Hex, to be honest. But it does not mean there's not downside. But buying Hex right now is a fucking steal. But yeah, if Dixon, that's why the guy who created the coin tells us every single day. Every single day he comes on here and tells us that. But nobody listens. That's why he wears Gucci suits now. Because only
tells what?
He tells us that the market dumps 95% no matter what the fuck. It doesn't fucking matter what you think. But when it goes, it goes. And he told us the top. He called the top on the day. And he drew the chart and he published it. So it's like, I'm not saying that you can call the exact top, but you don't.
I don't even necessarily agree with Richard Hart on that, because it went higher. Then that's not.
You know what I mean? Like, he had a good idea that we were going to go into a bear trend, and that was he knew we couldn't break all-time highs. He had a feeling we couldn't, like, He maybe didn't know. He said the one thing he never expected in that run was a double top. He said that was the thing that I've never seen before. That was the one. But he said it makes sense now in hindsight. He said it makes sense. Crypto's popping, right? There's still money flowing around. I don't see foreclosures yet around here, and most people around here be smoking crack. So it's just like I think the market just had a lot of downside, and he kind of just knew. But again, the specific numbers, yes, he didn't call the top on the exact day. He almost called the top on the exact day. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Hex is a steal right now. Hedron is a fucking steal. And Icosa earning Nectar constantly by me is fabulous. I'm super happy about where everything's going right now. I think this is fair. I think this is more fair for the guys that really want to study. Like, I think there's a lot of skin in the game for guys that want to study, whether you have $100 or $1,000, because the guys with a lot of money are staying, they ain't moving on it. And there's new things that come out. So while all that money's staked, there's new projects that change the world that come out by guys like Alex, like Hedron. Imagine if you had $100,000 extra and but like that was only 10% of your stack. And then you put it on Hedron, you were like, well, this is my liquid bag. And then your liquid bag does a 13x, you buy back more Hex and you're good to go. Because this was all calculatable. All the smart guys knew these numbers before they came out. We've been telling you for 3 months that Hedron is not playing the same fiddle that Hex is right now, but everyone just wants to point, scream, and cry because they don't want to learn anything. They just want to point, scream, and cry. But that's not the point, guys. The point is we're all going to be super, super, super rich. If we you got to be diamond handed, you got to accumulate more coins, and you got to stay healthy in your mind. If you're not healthy in your mind, you will end up listening. You'll play follow the leader. There's always a leader, guys, that's willing to make you follow them. But just learn, try and learn. And that's what I want to do on this show. Sam, any closing words before we get out of here?
Nope. Appreciate you guys. Check out Twitter down below, other channels. Actually going to be going live tonight with RH Max, I think at 6 o'clock for half an hour. If you guys want to tune in, 6 p.m. EST tonight on my channel. And that's it. I appreciate you guys. We're going to listen to some DeFi proof as we get out of here. Peace.
Farming with my stables in the decks. I'm holding IRA and it reflects. I'm sticking all this shit on Everest. And I'm balling ETF. Farming with my stables in the decks. I'm holding IRA and it reflects. I'm sticking all this shit on Everest. You see, the problem was these epochs. Now I'm printing daily, man, who need that? I check my APR on BFAT. And the regulation printing big stacks. I simple swapped it for some BNB. Took my shares and I made OP.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy